Hello, I'm Amy from the Kids Corner, and today we're going to make fringed garland out of old t-shirts. So what you need for this craft is a t-shirt that you're willing to cut out, a safety pin, some sharp fabric scissors, or a rotary tool if you have it. That works even better, but most people don't have that, so I'll be doing the craft with the scissors. And then I like to use chalk or marker if you have a lighter color to draw the cut lines. It just helps kids keep the straight line and know where to cut. Some t-shirts have a seam on the side and some do not. This craft is done with t-shirts that have no seam. You'll have to modify it slightly when you're doing the yarn. If you have the seam, you'll have to make shorter pieces since you won't be able to do that continuous loop, and then tie them together to make a longer string to run through your garland. So to start this craft, I'm going to take my t-shirt and I'm going to fold it like that. We're going to use half the t-shirt for the actual garland and the other part to make t-shirt yarn to string through the garland. Right under the armpits, you're going to cut straight across. And then about halfway, you're going to cut straight across. The bottom of the t-shirt, where you have the seam, you end up with the loop that we're going to take the t-shirt yarn and string it through to hang it. So now we're left with two parts. We're left with this loop here that's going to become our t-shirt yarn. And then we have another loop that has the bottom seam. So we're going to cut this piece to make our fringes. We're going to cut about 1-inch strips along up to the seam here, but we don't want to cut those threads because it will make it less strong. It'll make the threads unravel. And I'm just going to quickly draw the lines. They don't have to be perfect. When you pull them after and make them curl, it covers a lot of the imperfections that happen. So once you cut them all, you'll end up with this. It's still a loop, and as you can see, we want it to be a straight line. So we're just gonna choose any spot and just cut through that seam. And you end up with that. Now, t-shirt's really cool that when you have these thin pieces and you pull them, they get curled and they look really nice. So this is a great part to involve the small kids. So you just pull all of them. You don't have to pull too hard, but all right, so there we go. Now we're ready to move on to making the t-shirt yarn so that we can hang this. Now we take our loop and we're gonna fold it carefully so that it lines up. And then we're gonna fold it like this, leaving about 1.5 to 2 inches at the top. So with our chalk, we're gonna draw our lines. Again, about 1 inch, 1.5 inches will do too, especially if you're doing this with smaller kids. Now, when we cut this, we're gonna wanna cut over this fold. So we're gonna make sure that we cut just over that. So once you have all those done, it's now time to cut the leftover part. Now you're gonna have to do this very carefully. You want it to be a continuous loop, so you're not, if you were to just cut across, you would end up with like circles, right? So if you cut diagonally, so this one goes this way, and then from there, just follow the pattern. And you're doing diagonally, so one off. So now we're left with one continuous string of t-shirt yarn. So just like our fringes, we're gonna pull this to make it curled, and it will take care of any of those uneven edges that you're likely to get if you did this using scissors. If you use the rotary tool, it does end up a lot neater, but rotary tools are very, very sharp. So you can see there we have some nice t-shirt yarn. So our next step is to run the t-shirt yarn through this loop in our fringe here so that we can hang it. So my trick to do that is to use a safety pin. So by hooking the safety pin on the end of your yarn, you have something that you can grab onto to push it through there. Now, I've done this with quite small kids and I've helped them along, but it's something that a pretty small kid can get the hang of with some help. So you just kind of inch it along and pull it. So I'm grabbing the safety pin, pushing as much as I can, and then pulling. Eventually you might need to pull the end as it gets too scrunched. All right, so we got all the way through. Just gonna pull it so that it's not all scrunched up. And save quite a bit so that we can tie it off, cut it. We have all this extra t-shirt yarn for another project. And we have our finished fringe garland that you can decorate your room or decorate for a birthday party. If you're doing this with older kids, you can teach them to braid. Make it a little more fancy with that. You can add beads to it. You can tie-dye it, dip dye it. Any of that works. Thank you. Goodbye.